Welcome back, my friends, to the Derate podcast. I am Wilt from wiltsworld.com, and this is going to be episode 69 this week. And this week we're going to talk a little bit about something a little bit different that I'm going to be doing. And these are going to be little random episodes, something I'm going to call a DTH Quickshot episode. It's going to be completely random, but if something pops on my mind, if something comes up that throughout the week that I really want to get out there, I'll be throwing little audio snippets out, and they'll get published right away we're going to call them the DTH Quickshot episode. And then this week I'm going to talk about just a few things that happened to me this week, kind of like I'm going to be doing in those DTH Quickshot episodes. A couple things that we've got coming up, a couple things that I've thought about this week, and it's really just going to be a quick solo episode. I hope you enjoy it. Now, first things first, we did not create the hate. But with your help, we can derate the hate. It's all about bettering the world one attitude at a time. And that all starts with each one of us as an individual. So what have you done today to make your life a better life? What have you done today to make the world a better place? Again, it starts with us as an individual. It's up to you to make your life better, which will in turn make the world a better place. Now, I know I talk about that every week, and it's the reason I do it's because it's that important. It's that important to keep on top of your mind and keep believing that what I do every day to make my day the day that I want it to be, everything that I do really makes a difference in the world around me. You know, I talked in way back in episode 8 about misery loves company. You know, and I've talked several times on this podcast about how I spent a lot of my life miserable. A lot of my life was just pure misery. And it wasn't until I figured out that I was the only person that could change that I really started to realize and really started to practice a daily ritual of making sure that I wasn't miserable. And I recently was having a conversation, and somebody asked me, how do you get beyond that misery? You know, I was bullied as a child. I was miserable. I grew up poor. I got all kinds of things in my past that I could dwell on every day to make sure that I stayed miserable. But I don't want to be miserable. I don't want to be miserable, and I'm pretty much convinced that if a person is miserable, now, trust me, there's people who suffer from depression and suffer from serious mental illness. I'm not talking about those people. Those people have a serious thing that needs to be dealt with psychologically with a professional or medically, drugs of some kind. That's not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about that person that you know who whether it be in your family or somebody that you work with or somebody who's just, you can tell they make no effort to be happy. They just want to be miserable. And if you ask them, they're like, of course I don't want to be miserable. But the reality is they're miserable because they choose to be miserable. Misery is a choice in many, many, and probably most circumstances. They asked me, how do you go from being a miserable person, somebody who is angry all the time, yelling all the time, just unhappy all the time? How do you get beyond that? And it's really about baby steps. And that's something I'm going to be diving into a lot more in coming episodes. That's more than just one episode. It's something I'm going to be talking about. Like I said, I've talked about it before, as far as, like I said, way back in episode 8 when I first started doing this podcast. It was one of the first ones that I did, Misery Loves Company, in episode 8. In episode 2, I believe it was, I talked about smiles and bad moods are contagious. So, I came up with a saying this week, and I basically said, when it comes to your work life, when it comes to how you present yourself in the professional atmosphere, whatever your job is, it really does not matter. But I believe, and I truly believe this, that more careers have been ruined by one's inability to control their emotions than by lack of talent. It really says a lot about a person when they always come to work and they present a miserable persona to the people that are around them, and they just do stuff that misery and that bad mood is every bit as contagious as any illness. With the pandemic and everything we've got going on, right? We've seen how the government's response to the pandemic has just taken down so many businesses and taken down the workplace in so many ways for so many people. But the reality is so does misery. When you have a miserable coworker and somebody who is constantly portraying that miserable thing that they do, it really can hurt, and it can take down a workforce, because that is every bit as contagious as any illness that has taken down any good team in any workplace. So just think about that. More careers have been ruined by one's inability to control their emotions than by lack of talent. And that's something that I truly believe in. Another thing that happened this week that I really enjoyed, if you haven't heard about Braver Angels yet, if you haven't heard me talk about Braver Angels, I talked with Rick and Barbara. They are local ambassadors for the Braver Angels organization here in the state of Minnesota. I talked to them back in episode 48 about bridging the divide and just being able to settle down that toxic political discourse that we see so often today all over the place. And that was the first time I became engaged with Braver Angels. And since then, it's become a part of my life, because they have such a commonality with what I try to do with this podcast. Now, in most circumstances, I try to keep political or the major political issues out of this podcast. But the reality is a lot of what we see, a lot of the hate we see today, is really exacerbated by politicians and by those in the media who are in the pockets or doing the bidding for the politicians. So it's impossible to talk about hate without talking about politics. And the Braver Angels organization is really all about bridging that divide and settling down that toxic political discourse and making sure that people can talk to each other in a civilized manner again. So back in episode 48, I talked to, like I said, Rick and Barbara about bridging the divide, and that's an important episode if you want to step back. But since then, I became part of what's called the Working People's Project, and more specifically, the We the People's Forum, as a part of Braver Angels. And in episode 66, a couple weeks ago, I talked to David Lapp, who is one of the founders of Braver Angels, and he is basically the head of the We the People's Project, or the Working People's Project, and the We the People's Forum. That is definitely something I'm going to be bringing up more, especially in the DTH Quickshot episodes that I was talking about earlier. Is Braver Angels and Braver Angels events. When there's one coming up, I am going to talk about it. I'm going to promote it, and I'm going to be putting out links to make sure that as many people as possible can become involved with that, because I think it is so incredibly important. If you haven't listened to episodes 48 or episode 66, please step back and listen to those. They're excellent. But more importantly, you get an insight into an excellent organization, and that is the Braver Angels organization. So important, so important. So check those episodes out, and check out the show notes to get links to Braver Angels. Another thing this week, talked to a good friend of mine, Muhammad Ahmed of Average Muhammad. This guy, I love this guy. He's awesome. And we were just talking. I've got to get something set up. In fact, I got to reach out to him again tonight, get him back on the show. Such an awesome organization. Muhammad Ahmed with AverageMuhammad.com. All about battling Islamic extremism and really any kind of extremism. And the ideology, poisonous ideologies. He spoke around the world, talked to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of young people, and all about battling extremism. That guy is awesome. Episode 49. He's also going to be coming up in a episode here coming up real soon. I got to reach out to Muhammad Ahmed, and so be looking forward to that. That's going to be awesome. And then another thing I saw on Twitter. Speaking of extremism, I saw something on Twitter this week that really stood out to me. I watched this video of a guy named Jeff Shope. I'm not sure if I say that right, but Jeff Schoep, I guess he's a former Nazi, and Josh Stepikoff, who was the victim of a hate crime, a shooting at a Jewish school when he was a kid, and they were speaking at the Wiesenthal Center. I'm not sure if I said that right either. Video was good. Such an important deal. This Jeff Schoep was apparently or came around to the poisonous ways that he was living. And that's somebody who I'm going to be reaching out to here real soon and try to get him on the show. And then possibly Josh Stepikoff too, somebody who's been the victim of a hate crime. You know, we hear so much today, and politicians pandering and trying to make everybody believe that white supremacy is the major concern of the day and the number one crisis that we have to worry about for our safety. I don't think most people even know or have ever met any kind of white supremacist. But maybe we can get Jeff Schoep on the show, and he can talk more about that. But more specifically, I want to know how he became a white supremacist and a Nazi, and then more importantly, how he got away from that ideology. That's the kind of stuff that I want on the Derate the Hate podcast. There's nobody that hates white supremacists more than I do. And if I can find a guy who is actually a white supremacist, because I don't really think that there's that many out there, and then find out how he got away from that ideology, I want to hear it. So Jeff Schoep, I'm going to be reaching out to him real soon and try to get him on the show. That's definitely the important stuff that we need to be talking about, not just on the Derate the Hate podcast, but in general. So I don't know if you know a former white supremacist. If you are a white supremacist, if you know a white supremacist, let them know to get in touch with the Derate the Hate podcast. I'd like to know what makes them evil and hateful, because that's what white supremacy is. It's evil and hateful, and the vast majority of American people understand that, and we need to point that stuff out and figure out what causes it and how we get rid of it, instead of just letting the politicians use it as the talking point of the day and use it to scare everybody. So that's the kind of thing that I want to be talking about. So let's get back to talking about these DTH Quickshot episodes. I just want you to know we're still going to have our weekly shows. Our weekly Wednesday episodes will be launching every Wednesday morning. The DTH Quickshots, maybe a couple a week, maybe none each week. It doesn't. There's not going to be any specific format. It's just going to be when I see or hear something throughout the week that I want to bring up or promote or whatever, or if I do maybe a YouTube short or something on Rumble or TikTok, and I can take the audio and just throw it out there on the podcast with little show notes. We're going to just publish it. We're going to publish it. We're going to just get more content out there. I want to do more and try to engage more in more ways than just our weekly episodes. So like I said, it may be 30 seconds, it may be 3 minutes, who knows? But the DTH Quickshot episodes, that's exactly what it's going to be. It's just going to be a little quick snip, me jumping on, me jumping off, and getting some more content out there. The big thing is I want to engage more with the listeners. I want you to tell your friends. I want you to email me and let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you're thinking of the show. And let's do some engaging. Let's talk some more and see how we can do things together to better the world. So what have you done today to make your life a better life? What have you done today to make the world a better place? It's up to you. It's up to you as an individual. So again, get out there. Be kind to one another. Be grateful for everything that you've got. And remember, it's up to you to make each and every day the day that you want it to be. I am Wilk. Email me, wilk@wilksworld.com. The DTH podcast is almost everywhere you can get your audio, so subscribe to us. Subscribe right on our websites if you need to. Go to Apple Podcasts, leave us some feedback, leave us a rating, and with that, I'm going to back on out of here. We'll catch you next week, or sooner. Who knows? Take care.